지금 시간은 2026년 3월 21일 오후 10시 3분입니다. Talk with the Gemini. Please describe sherry matured whiskeys. What is different between Uluru Sherry but Hogshead and better? Sherry matured whiskeys are beloved for their rich, dried fruit and nutty profile, but the specific type of casks used, but Hogshead or better, plays a massive role in how that flavor develops. Since you are interested in Uluru Sherry, understanding the bestsellers is key because of the ratio of wood or to wiki changes to intensity of the maturation. Here is a detailed breakdown of these three main cask types. The sherry butt, approximately 500 liters. The butt is the traditional and most common cask used for sherry maturation. It is a tall, slender cask made of thick oak staves. Maturation style. Because it is so large, the ratio of wood surface area to the liquid inside the relatively low. This means the whiskey matured more slowly and steadily. Oloroso influence. In a 500 liter butt, the Oloroso influence between deep and heavy. It often results in clashing notes of dark chocolate, rusty nut, and leather. It is perfect for long-term aging, 18 plus years, because the wood doesn't overwhelm the spirit too quickly. The hogshead, approximately 250 liters. A hogshead is essentially a reconstructed cask to make one. Cooper usually take apart standard bourbon barrels and adds extra steps to increase the capacity. Maturation style. It is roughly half the size of a butt. This means there is more wood content per drop of whiskey. Maturation happens faster than in a butt, leading a more robust oak influence in a shorter amount of time. Oloroso influence. Then seasoned. Oloroso. When seasoned with Oloroso, a hogshead often provides a very spicy and active profile. You might notice more cinnamon, ginger, and clove notes. Clove. What is clove? Clove. 정향. Okay. Compare the butt along the standard raisin and plum flavors. The better ASB, approximately 200 liters. The barrel, often called the American Standard Barrel or ASB, is the smallest of the three common types. While traditionally used for bourbon, many modern distilleries now use sherry seasoned barrels. Maturation style. This size has the highest surface area to liquid ratio. The whiskey interactions very intensively with the wood. This can be dangerous if left too long, as the wood can become too dominant. Oloroso influence. Sherry mature barrels are often used for finishing secondary maturation a few months or years in the Oloroso barrel can quickly add a bright, fruity sweetness and a golden amber color to a whiskey what was previously aged in something else. Summary tables. Cask type, but hogshead barrel capacity 500 liter, 250 liter, 200 liter. Wood influence low, slow, medium, balanced, high, fast. Best for long-term aging and classic richness. Robust, spicy, consistent maturation. Quick finishing and intense flavor. Why it matters for Oloroso lovers. Oloroso is a dry sherry, but it is oxidative, meaning it has a lot of nutty and syrupy complexity. If you want a balanced, elegant whiskey like a botch maturation, if you want something spicier and punchier, a hogshead might be more your style. If you want a sweet, quick burst of flavor, look for a sherry finish, which often used smaller barrels. Would you like me to find some specific bottle recommendations that uh, mention these specific cask types on the label? Uh, yes, please. Since you are specifically interested in Oloroso Sherry and already have an eye for brands like Kavalan and Glenallachie, here are some bottle examples that clearly state their cask types. The bottles will help you see the practical difference between a bot, a hogshead, and a barrel. The bot example, Glenparclas family casks. Glenparclas is famous for using sherry bots. Their family cask series is a goldmine for Oloroso lovers because each bottle comes from a single cask. Bottle, Glenparclas family casks, vintage like 2002, 2010. What to look for? The label will often say cask type, first fill Oloroso sherry, but the experience expect a very dark mahogany color because it's a but if the flavors are wide and deep. A thin heavy Christmas cake, raisins, raisins, compote, and dark chocolate. It feels like a slow cooked meal. The flavors are perfectly integrated. The Hogshead example, signatory vintage, independent bottler. Independent bottler, the signatory vintage are great because they print the exact cask. Details on front label. They often use sherry hogshead, 250 liter, bottle, signatory vintage cask strength collection. Yeah, for example, Buhanabun 10 years old or Ringkud. What to look for? Look for cask type first. Fill sherry hogshead on the label. The experience. Since the hogshead is smaller than a bot, interaction is more intense. You will get the puncher spice, lots of cinnamon, cloves, and a bit more oak grip on the tongue. It feels more energetic and vibrant than the mellow bot. the better barrique. Example, Cavallan Solist series. Since you've into Cavallan, you might notice they use unique sizes. While they have a lot of bots, they are also worldwide famous for their Barrique butter. Cavallan Solist or lot of sherry single casks or Pinot Barriques. What to look for? While the Oloroso Solist is usually a bot, the Vino Barrique use a 225 to 250 liter barrique, similar in size to a hogshead but shaped differently. The experience in Taiwan's hot climate, wood interaction is extremely fast. A smaller better barrique here create an explosive flavor. It's not softer. It's a flavor bomb of tropical fruits and heavy tannins. The Hogshead versus Bot comparison. Glendronach single casks. Glendronach is the king of sherry. They release newer batches of single casks, and they use both puncheons but large, and hogsheads medium bottles. Glendronach and single casks, batch releases. The comparison: if you see two bottles from the same year, but one is a bot and one is a hogshead, the bot version will usually be smoother than more fruity forward, while the hogshead will be woodier and more savory, spicy. Summary for your next shopping trip. Brand, likely cask, flavor, vibe, Glenfarclas, but smooth, deep, classic, signatory vintage, hogshead, spicy, robust, active, Cavallan, but barrique, intense, tropical, syrupy. Helpful tip: if you are looking for a bottle under 50,000 KRW, as you mentioned for sherry wine, finding a single cask bought whiskey is difficult because they are premium. However, you can look for sherry finished whiskeys. These are often aged in large bourbon barrels and then move to smaller sherry hogshead or barrels for 6 to 12 months to get a quick or also kick. Would you like me to find few budget-friendly or also influenced whiskeys available in Korea? No thanks. Would you share the information why so casks 34 whiskey maturing. In the world of whiskey, Oloroso is the most popular type of sherry cask used maturation. While there are often other styles like Pedro Jimenez, Fino, Amontillado, Oloroso remains the industry standard for a few very specific regions. Here is why Oloroso casks are so highly valued for maturing whiskey. The oxidate nature of Oloroso, unlike Fino sherry, which is protected from air by a layer of yeast called flour, Oloroso matured oxidatively. Oloroso is matured oxidatively. 산화. Oxidatively. 산화. The result. This oxidation creates very stable, robust flavor like dried fruits, raisins, prunes, roasted nut, and leather. clove. 정량은 뭐야? Okay, I see. This means it is exposed to air throughout its long aging processes. The result, this oxygen creates very stable, robust flavor like dried fruits, raisins, prunes, roasted nuts, and leather. Why for whiskey? Because these flavors are heavy and stable, they don't disappear when the whiskey is added to the cask. Instead, they provide a strong backbone that survives years of aging. High tannin content, European oak. Traditional Oloroso sherry is often aged in European oak, Quercus robur. This wood is naturally high in tannins compared to American oak. The interaction, the Oloroso wine soaks deep into these tannins and mellows them out. When the whiskey enters the cask later, it pulls out these fission tannins. The result, this gives the whiskey its famous dark mahogany color and a spicy dry grip on the finish that many enthusiasts love. And Suji ate on the finish that many enthusiasts love. The dryness factor. Even though Oloroso whiskey tastes sweet, like fruitcake, Oloroso shake itself are actually dry wine. The balance, because Oloroso isn't overly sugary. Unlike the syrupy PX sherry, it doesn't make for flavor of the distillery's own spirit. The result, it creates a balanced harmony where you can still taste the malt and the smoke if it's peated, but it beautiful layer of nutty complexity on top. Historical availability. In the 19th century, Oloroso was one of the most popular styles of the sherry imported to the UK from Spain. The logic, since the wine was shipped in 500-liter bottles, the empty casks were easily available for and shipped and the British stocks. The tradition. Scottish distillers began to use these leftover casks and realized they made the whiskey taste incredible. The historical accident became the standard for sherry mature scotch. Summary table: Oloroso versus others. Sherry type, style, main flavor contribution to whiskey. Oloroso, dry, oxidive. Fruity, nutty, leather, dark chocolate, dried fruit. PX, Pedro Jimenez, very sweet. Sticky toffee, figs, intense sugar. Fino, manzanilla, dry, biologic, salty, herbal, green apple, like oak. Interesting fact. Most modern Oloroso casks are actually sherry seasoned. Distilleries pay sherry cooperages, Spanish cooperages to build new casks and fill them with the Oloroso for 1 and 2 years, specifically preparing the world for whiskey rather than using old Solera casks from a winery. Would you like me to use more about difference between the seasoned cask and the Solera casks used in the past? Yes. Please describe for me. The distinction between seasoned casks. Solera casks is one of the most misunderstood topic in the whiskey world. Most people imagine their whiskey is aging in ancient barrels taken directly from the fancy sherry bodega, but really it's quite different today. Here is a breakdown of why these two types of casks offer such different profile. The modern seasoned casks, the industry standard. About 9 to 95% of the sherry mature whiskeys today use the seasoned cask. These are casks built specifically for the whiskey industry. The process: Scottish distillery like Macallan and Dalmore contracted to a cooperage in Spain. They select the wood, often American or European oak, build a new cask, and fill it with Oloroso sherry for 12 to 24 months. The factor of the wine. After seasoning the wood, that sherry is usually distilled into brandy or turned into sherry vinegar. It is rarely bottled as high-end drinking sherry. The flavor profile. Because the wood is relatively fresh, it is very active. High vanillins. You get lots of vanilla and caramel from the fresh wood. High bright color. It gives the whiskey and drink vibrant amber like red color quickly. Fruit forward. Oh, the flavor are bright, Think fresh raisins, plums, and berries. The traditional Solera casks, the rare legend. A Solera cask is a cask that actually lived in a sherry bodega for 30, 15, or even 100 years as part of a Solera system. The faction blending process used to make sherry wine. The process, these casks were never intended for whiskey. They were only retired when the become too old to hold wine or the bodega closed down. Why they are rare. Bodega almost never sell their Solera casks because the old wood is essential for flavor of their wine. A retired Solera cask is often tried. The wood has given all its flavor to the wine over many decades. The flavor profile, because the wood is so old, it is passive. It doesn't give much vanilla or oak spices. Deep oxidation. The flavor comes from a decades of wine that shocked deep into the stables. Savory, savory, savory and funky. Expect rancio notes, leather, tobacco, balsamic, oil library books, and a very dry, nutty finish, subtle color. Surprisingly, an old Solera casks might give less color than a new seasoned oak. Oh, key difference in a glance. Feature seasoned casks, Solera casks, primary goal to flavor whiskey, to age sherry wine. Age of casks 1 to 2 years, 30 to 100 plus years. Wood perfect, high, low. Availability. Mass produced, extremely rare, expensive. Why the change happened? In the past, before the 1970s, sherry has shipped to the UK in transport casks, but once the wine arrived and was bottled, the empty casks were sold to distilleries. However, Spain changed the law in 1986, requiring all sherry to be bottled in Spain. This stopped the flow of transport casks to the UK. To survive, the whiskey industry had to start seasoning their own casks in Spain and shipping the empty wet wood to Scotland. A pro tip: if you see a bottle labeled Ex Solera casks, it is usually a very special and expensive release. Most standard sherry oak casks you see on the shelf and matured in high quality seasoned casks, which actually provide that uh, sherry bomb proteins that many people prefer. Since you interested in the solar system, would you like me to explain how the solar system itself works for aging and actual sherry wine? Yes, please. For Solera system. The Solera system is a fascinating and complex method of traditional blending uh, with most spirits like Spanish and Bourbon are aged in a single static cascade. Sherry wine is aged a dynamic system that moves through a different layer of barrels over many years. Think of think of it as a perpetual blending machines. Perpetual blending machines where the goal is consistently greater than vintage variation. The structure, the uh, clear their uh, layers, clear their Criadera. Criadera가 what is Criadera? Criadera layers. Imagine a stack of barrels, usually cherry butts, piled on top of each other in a bodega. Each horizontal row is called Criadera nursery, and they are organized by the age of the wine inside. The solera, bottom layer. This is the row closest to the floor. The word, suero means flow in Spanish. Each suero. Suelo. The word suelo means floor in Spanish. It contains the oldest wine in the entire system. The first Criadera middle layer contains the second oldest wine, the second Caldera. This contains the youngest wine. Note: some systems have as many as 10 or 14 Criadera layers. One 졸려. Note: some systems have as many as 10 or 14 Criadera layers. How the flow works. The Saka. The magic happens when it's time to bottle the wine. The process is called the Saka withdrawal. Bottling from the floor. A small portion, usually no more than 30%, is taken out of the Solera bottom barrels to be bottled and sold. The refill. The empty space in the Solera barrels is then refilled with the wine from the first Criadera. The row above it, the chain reaction. The first Criadera refilled with wine from the second Caliadera and so on. New wine, Sobertabla, fresh. Finally, the very top Caliadera is refilled with young wine from the most recent harvest. Why use this system? Why go through all this trouble instead of just leaving the wine in one barrel? Consistency. Because you are only moving a small amount of wine. The old wine teaches the new wine how to behave. The flavor profile stays exactly the same level year after a year. But butter or also from the Spain specific bodega will taste the same today as it did 20 years ago. Complexity. The wine is the bottom row is a blend of dozens or even hundreds of different harvests. Even if the system was started 100 years ago, there are still microscopic traces of that original 100-year-old wine in every bottle. Not nutrient supply. Nutrient. Nutrient supply. Nutrient supply. For biological sherries like Pinot, the new wine added to the top provides fresh nutrient for the floor year to survive. Solera in the whiskey world. While most whiskeys are not aged in Solera system, a few famous brands use a Solera vat. Inspired by this method, Glenfiddich, 15 years old, they use a giant Oregon pine vat that is always kept at least half full of 15 years of whiskey. The batches are added on the top and all batches are drawn from the top. This creates a very smooth, consistent, and honeyed profile. The keyword, Solera, the bottle low, the oldest wine, Cleadera, the upper rose, the darkest, oh, fractional blending, fractional. The act of mixing young, fractional blending, fractional. The act of mixing young and old wine continuously. Non-vintage. Why most wine sherry doesn't have a year on the label. It's a mix of many years. Since you've been exploring the technical side of sherry and casks, what would you like me to help you finding some specific Oloroso sherry wines? The actual wine, not the whiskey that are well regarded their Solera age? Yes, please explain for me. Okay. When you look for Oloroso sherry wines, you will often see terms of Solera Reserva or VOS on the label. These tell you average age of the wine within the Solera system. Since you are looking for high quality Oloroso with deep Solera influence, and ideally something accessible in Korea, here are three high regarded recommendations. Ooh. Uh, Lusto Lorenzo Don Nuno, Solera Reserva. This is widely considered the textbook Oloroso. It is part of Los Tos Solera familiar range, meaning it comes from a specific set of barrels used by the family for generations. Solera ages average of 12 years. The profile. It is bone dry but very powerful because it has been in the Solera for over a decade. It has lost all its grape flavor and turned into notes of toasted walnut, dark chocolate, and old leathers. Why it's great? It is very consistent and easy to find in Korean wine shop like Wine and More or Beer Daily Shot. It usually sits near the 40,000 and 55,000 won range, making it a great entry point for high-ended Solera sherry. Gonzalez Bayas Alfonso Oloroso Seco. Gonzalez Bayas is the grade of Jerez, the makers of Tio Pape. Alfonso is their standard Oloroso, and it is an incredible value for the quality. Solera ages average of 8 to 10 years. The profile, it is known for being very nut forward. You will smell hazelnut and pancakes, uh, pecans immediately. It has a slightly lighter body than Don Nuno, which makes it very drinkable. Why it's great? It is often the most affordable true Oloroso. In Korea, you can sometimes find this for around 330,000 to 40,000 KRW. It is a perfect dry sherry, daily sherry to keep in the fridge. Valdespino Valdespino. Don Gonzalo, Valdespino Don Gonzalo, Oloroso Viejo, VOS. If you want to experience truly old Solera, looking for this one, VOS stands for Vinium Optimium Signetium, but the industry also called it a very old sherry. Solera ages a minimum 20 years. The profile. This is a meditation wine because it has lived in the wood for over 20 years. It is incredibly concentrated. It tasted like espresso, balsamic, dried figs, and cigar boxes. Why it's great? Valdespino is a top-tier traditional bodega. This bottles is more expensive, often 100,000 plus KLW in Korea, but it shows you maximum complexity a Solera system can create. How to read age of on the label. The shopping keep an eye out for these optical official age classifications. Solera Reservera, quality entry level, average age 6 to 20 years, VOS, very old sherry, 20 plus years, VORS, very old rare sherry, 30 plus years. A quick tip for you. Since you enjoy the sherry bomb style of whiskey like Glenallachie or Kavalan, you might find this dry or also surprisingly savory and salty at first. If you want a wine that matches the sweetness of those whiskeys, look for an Oloroso thirst like Valdespino Solera 1842 or cream sherry, which is also blended with a bit of sherry PXY. What would you like me to check the current available or prices for on um, these specific bottles in Korea? No thanks. Please describe about the Fino sherry. While Oloroso is dark, nutty, and oxidative, Fino sherry is complete opposite, pale, fresh, and biological. Pale, 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 fresh. It is often called the most refreshing wine in the world, but it is also one of the most unique because of how it is made. If also like a heavy aged letters, armchair, Fino is like a cold, crisp morning by the ocean. The secret ingredient, flour. The most important thing to know about Fino is flour. 효모층, 곰팡이층, floral. Floret. The most important thing to know about phenol is floral. Floral is a natural layer of living yeasts that growing on the top of the wine inside the barrel. The protective blanket, unlike Oloroso, with the barrel is filled only 80% to let air in. Phenol barrels are kept in a way that allows this thick white yeast carpet to cover the entire surface of the wine. No oxygen. The florist up all the oxygen and sugar. This prevents the wine from turning brown, oxidizing. This is why phenol stays pale, straw yellow, while Oloroso turns dark brown. The biological aging processes. Because the yeast is alive, the aging is called biological aging. The yeast doesn't just protect the wine, it changes the flavor profile completely. Flavor compounds. As the yeast leaves the dries, it releases specific compoundings, acetaldehydes, that give phenol its famous sharp and yeasty smell. The result, phenol is extremely dry. In fact, it is one of the driest wines in the world because the floor consumes every yeast's bit of sugar. The flavor profile. If you taste the phenol, don't expect the resins or chocolate of an Oloroso. Instead, you will find aroma, fresh dough, green apple, almond, and a salty sea breeze. Palate, very crisp, light bodied, and slightly bitter, like a green olive or almond skin. Finish, clean and short, making your mouth water for food. Phenol cascades in whiskey maturation. You might occasionally see a whiskey labeled phenol sherry cask matured. The challenge, because phenol is so delicate and light. Phenol casks are very difficult to use for whiskey. They don't provide dark color or heavy sweetness for most sherry-headed look for. The whiskey profile. A phenol matured whiskey, like some rare releases from Cabernet or Lafroig, will be very pale gold and have notes, dried herbs, citrus peel, and distinct saltiness. It is a connoisseur's choice because it is subtle and acidic rather than sweet. Feature Pinot Sherry, Oloroso Sherry, color pale straw yellow, dark brown, mahogany, aging style, biological wheat flour, oxidative, no flour, sugar, bone dry, 0 gram, dry, but feels richer, key flavor, almond, green apple, salt, walnut, resin, leather, best food pair, hamon, olives, seafoods, aged cheese, roasted meat. A practical tip for phenol. Unlike Oloroso, which can stay open for a few weeks, phenol is very fragile. Once you open a bottle of vino, you should treat it like a white wine, keeping it in a fridge and drink it within 2 or 3 days. If you leave it open too long, its fresh yeast magic disappears. One step further, if a phenol is aged even longer and flow naturally dried off, it begins to oxidize and turns into an amontillado, the bridge between phenol and oloroso. Since you learned about two extremes, phenol and oloroso, would you like to know more about the middle style, the amontillado? Yes, please. Amontillado is often called the intellectual sherry. Intellectual. Because it lives two different lives. It starts its journey as a phenobiological aging, but ended its journey as an oloroso oxidative aging. It is very perfect middle ground for someone who enjoys the freshness of the pheno but caves to the deep, nutty complexity of an oloroso. The two-stage aging processes. The story of an amontillado is story of transformation. Page 1 biological, the phenol stage. The wine begins in a solar system under a layer of phenol yeasts. For several years, usually 3 to 8 years, the yeast protects the wine from oxygen, keeping it pale and adding sharp, yeasty and almond-like notes. Page to oxidate the oloroso stage. Eventually, flour begins to die off, either naturally because its nutrients in the wine are gone, or intentionally because the winemaker adds more alcohol, fortification to kill the yeast. Once the flour is gone, the wine is exposed to air. The result, the wine begins to turn from pale yellow to amber to topaz. It loses its fresh green apple proteiness and starts developing the concentrated roast flavor of wood and air. The flavor profile. Because it has experienced both worlds, the flavor is incredibly layered. The notes, you get sharpness of the phenol, herbal, salty mixed with the warmth of an oloroso hazelnut caramel. The palate, it is bone dry, bare, and very elegant. It is lighter in body than an oloroso, but has more strength and acidity than a phenol. Key notes. Toasted hazelnut, the signature of Amontillado, tobacco, orange peel, and a distinct savory or umami quality. Amontillado in whiskey maturation. Amontillado casks are much rarer in the whiskey world industry than Oloroso or PX, but they are highly prized by collectors. The influence on Amontillado mature whiskey, like some Glenmorangie or Distiller's Edition releases, it usually a refined experience. The profile, it doesn't give the heavy fruit of Oloroso. Instead, provide a nut, dry, and slightly citrusy finish. It is excellent for brightening up a heavy malt without making it too sweet. 오늘은 여기까지.